I don't think we'll ever get rid of the button straddle, but as a specific case, Mike Nelson, who runs the Peppermill in Reno, best poker room manager in the United States, starts the action under the gun no matter what, and then they jump over the straddle. And people say, oh, it's too confusing. Well, whatever, learn to do it.
How about Lee Jones of PokerStars fame, dropping that little tidbit on the Thinking Poker podcast with Andrew Brokus. I love it. Calling our guy, Mike Nelson, the best poker room manager in the United States. And I don't think anyone that's played at Peppermill or knows Mike would argue with that. We'll talk about one of the things he does well coming up here in just a minute. But first, let's talk about Texas, where I'm going to be heading at the end of the month. There is going to be a meetup game on the night of April 27th. This, of course, coming at 52 Social Club in Austin, Texas. Take a look at the list we've already got up for this meetup game. I'm going to be in there as well as Ryan DePaulo, Poker Face Ash, Joey the Mush, and Suited Superman. Among those already confirmed to be there that night. Plenty of others already getting on the list as well. So get on to Poker Atlas and get on that list if you want to play in a series of meetup games with a bunch of different vloggers at 52 Social Club in Austin coming up on the 27th. Meanwhile, over at Peppermill, it should be a very big day based on a promotion that is going on there. Let's head over and see if we can't continue to dig our way out of a brutal March downswing and have some success here in April. A long-standing debate with cash game poker rooms is what to do with the money taken out for the bonus drop. Now, I've said over the years, I hate the bonus drop because it's eaten me alive over the years. I've won a lot of $40 pots during that time, and despite being involved in some bad beat jackpots, I would have a lot more money if I have $1 for every hand I ever won, as opposed to those jackpots. But that said, if you're going to do them, you should do them, I believe, like Mike Nelson, the manager of the Peppermill Poker Room, does. Talk about why he's the best in the country at that job. It's because he thinks things through in ways others do not. He realizes that giving away $50,000 all at once to a bad beat jackpot winner is not the best overall way to grow the room. And the way that he did this particular giveaway, I thought, was the best way to do it. $200 given away every half hour from noon to midnight. And the more hours you played throughout the course of the month and a half leading up to that, the more tickets you get. I think that is an absolute great way to give that money back. We jump into the game at about 3 o'clock on a Thursday, and the first hand we play comes when under the gun limps. I raise Jack 9 of diamonds and the low jack to 15 and get 2 callers. With 50 in, the flop is Jack 10-7 rainbow with 1 diamond. Check to me. I bet 30. The button folds and under the gun makes the call. If I could hand pick a turn card here, it would be the 8 of diamonds. And with 110 in, well, you guessed it. That's exactly what shows up. +1 checks, and I bet this for 60. This guy has been an opponent on a lot of vlogs, and I refer to him as a bit of a pro MC, a term a friend of mine came up with that truly applies. He is notorious for slow playing all of his big flops, and here he check min raises me. I don't take too long before re-raising him all in.
I'll bet it all.
He does not snap call here, which I figured meant that he had a set. I actually thought that he was going to throw it away for his last few hundred, but he hems and haws and finally calls, giving us an $850 pot. He ends up having pocket sevens, pretty much exactly what I thought here. And the river comes another jack, pairing the board, giving him his full house. Apparently, he's better at getting a board pair when he absolutely has to have one than I am, because we've already established that I'm the worst at that. So, that sucked, but stay tuned for the sequel to that hand later on. I then picked up pocket eights and got 3-bet to 65. I just assumed that I'd be hitting my set here because it's the hand that I run better with than any other, but come to find out, hitting a set is hard. And we don't do it here. But the good news is that a dealer/floor person named Lisa was kind enough to give me this bottle of Cabernet from 2017 that is truly fantastic, given the bottle itself, and I'm going to be hesitant to open it. We didn't get a $15 open from Under the Gun 2 at a call from the player on my right. I have 5-6 of spades in the low jack and make the call. The hijack and the big blind also come along here, and with 75 in, the flop is really interesting. 8-4 deuce rainbow with 1 spade, giving me a double belly buster. Check the middle position, and he bets 45. I end up being his only caller, and with 165 in, the turn is the 3 of hearts, giving me the straight. He fires out 100 here, and I decide to slow play this bad boy based on the fact that I didn't think he had all that much, and I didn't think that he'd call a raise with just a pair of 8s. With 365 in, the river is a king, and now he checks, which led to me making a mistake. I decide to bet here for 175 in to 365. Now, we just established that the best hand that he's likely to have is probably a pair of 8s. So that bet is just way too big to get paid off in a live game like this. He folds pretty quickly and will never know, but I really don't like my river bet there. I think I should have bet about 80 or so less. Then a player nicknamed The Professor opens to 15, and let's just say that he's the kind of guy that I want to give action to. So 5-3 of diamonds is good enough. One other call, and with 50 in, we see a flop of Jack 4-6 rainbow, giving me an open-ender. He bets out for 30 here, and I take the aggressive route, raising him to 110. The other player folds, and the Professor shows King Jack and lays it down, which I will say I didn't quite expect, saying that I must have 2 pair or a set. Our player pool's most adventurous player then sits down in the game, a.k.a. Cagney, a.k.a. Mr. C, a.k.a. Sharky. Why did that just remind me of the end of the movie Kill Bill? Anyway, he gets into the game and limps in the Under the Gun +1 position, as does one other in middle position. The Professor raises it 25 in the cutoff, and I have pocket 4s in the big blind and make the call. The others call as well, so with 100 in, the flop is 5-4 deuce rainbow, giving me middle set. I look to go for the check raise here, and the Professor bets out for 20. I make it 55, and the others fold. The cutoff decides to call though, so with 210 in, the turn is a jack. I decide to make it 85, and he comes along, and with 380 in, the river comes a 6. I bet 125 here, targeting a small overpair to that flop, and he doesn't think about it for very long, and calls, giving us a $625 pot. I show my hand, and he mucks. I then have 8-6 of diamonds and make it 15 in middle position, and my only caller is an older woman on the button. With 35 in, it comes King 3-5, 2 clubs, and no one bets. Turn is the 4 of hearts. Good barrel card for me. I bet 25, but she doesn't fold. And with 85 in, the river is the 7 of diamonds. We are no longer running bad. She has about 125 left, and I decide to bet it all. She snap calls, giving us a $335 pot, and we win against her King 6. So her not betting the flop, combined with a terrible run out for her, ends up costing her the rest of her stack. After that, I was focusing on the game and my Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Calgary Flames, as they need to basically win out to make the playoffs, depending on what the LA Kings do. And while I think they're going to come close to doing that, it's going to be tight. As my vlogging phone is charging on one of the few spots left in the room where chargers still function, I open 10-8 of hearts to 15, and with 65 in, go 4 ways to 9-7 deuce, 2 diamonds. I bet 50, and the Pro MC on the button is the only one to continue on. We've already established, both in this vlog and years of play against him, that he loves to slow play big hands on flops. And with 165 in, the turn is an offsuit 4. I check, expecting him to bet relatively small, allowing me to draw to my hand on the river. And that's kind of what happens. He doesn't bet overly small, but he bets 90 into 165. Which, given the fact that he has 700 behind, I found to be an acceptable price, and I was convinced that if I hit, I could likely get his entire stack. So I call, and with 345 in, the river is a beautiful jack of hearts, giving me the straight. I check it over to him as I planned to do. He bets 125, and I check raise to 500, expecting him to snap call. He does not snap call. In fact, he doesn't even call. He does the last thing I expected him to do. He announces that if I hit the jack, I was good, but that he was going all in anyway. So he ends up having pocket nines, and while he didn't have to lose a small portion of his remaining stack, he decides to do it anyway. And an $1,800 pot and revenge from the previous hand, if that's a thing, is headed our way. So 2 big pots against a very tough opponent. And I just have to point out that in both hands, I got the money in with the best of it each time. Just saying. I win a few more pots and decide that 17 stacks of red is enough, and color up to a hockey puck and a couple of blacks. Then I flopped top pair and the nut flush draw, and lost a couple $100 to a guy named Jeff, who I'm not sure going into this day had ever lost a pot to me. More on that coming up. Then Sharky straddles 15 on the button, and under the gun, a player who has been giving a lot of action, calls. Then a very tough opponent in the under the gun +2 position makes it 65. He's hardly played a hand in the last 2 hours. It's necessary to point out that this player, in my mind, has established himself as one of the best in our player pool. Sometimes he can be overly aggressive, but he's really good, and in all honesty, has impressed me a lot lately. The point is, getting heads up with him and blowing the other players out of the hand that actually give me action isn't a scenario that I liked. So I decide to just smooth call here with pocket kings. And oddly, the guy on my left, who I don't even know at all, cold calls that, and the other 2 that I wanted in the hand fold. So far, this is not going as I wanted it to go. And with 230 in, we go 3 ways to queen 6 deuce with 2 hearts. The original raiser promptly realizes that I have something here and decides to shut it down immediately, checking the flop. I bet out here and get raised to 225 by the guy on my left. The original raiser folds, and I have an obvious call here, but I think it's also obvious that I shouldn't be re-raising, because then I'm going to likely blow him off ace-queen, and he's only going to continue on with his sets and other hands that beat me. So with 680 in, the turn is a king, giving me top set. Now, I never really thought that he'd flopped a set here, so I was pretty convinced this was not a good card for me immediately. So I decided to check and see what he would do. He ends up not betting. So we go to the river, which is another heart. I wasn't overly worried about the flush draw, but it certainly was not a card that I loved. Still, I figure I have to bet here, and I have to bet targeting a queen specifically. So I make it 175 in to 680. He thinks about it for a minute and calls, giving us a $1,030 pot. I show my hand, and he mucks. So I'm winning pretty big now, and my Vegas Golden Knights are kicking the hell out of Calgary. So everything seems to be going quite well on the night, with the exception of the fact that they're doing all these $200 drawings, and I can't win one of them, though local favorite Bugsy is crushing them. He's already won 2. Bugsy is here. He's won another drawing. Can you give me some advice? How do I win these like you?
You know what? I don't think anybody can win them like me. So I think you're out of luck.
You heard it here. He's the best. I didn't get in many hands against Sharky on the day, but he continued to be a beast, winning with the skinny.
No, Ben, call it!
Skinny? I mentioned that a guy named Jeff, who parenthetically is a really nice guy, has been running very hot against me in 2022. The one thing that all the big hands that I've lost to him have in common is that I've always been the guy value betting the best hand and then getting that cracked on the river. So, what if I tried the opposite approach? Might that be able to win me a hand against him? We get a $20 open under the gun, and I have 8-9 of clubs in the hijack and make the call. 3 guys, including him, call behind, and with 80 in, It comes ace, queen 8, rainbow with 1 club. Original raiser bets out for 40, and I elect to peel here, and Jeff calls behind on the button. With 200 in, the turn card is about as good as it can get for me. The jack of clubs, giving me a straight flush draw, but technically I still just have a pair of 8s. Under the gun checks, and I decide to fire at this. I make it 125. Jeff makes the call on the button, and under the gun goes out. And with 450 in, the river is a really interesting card. It's the 10 of spades. So I make a straight, but there is now a one-liner to a king. So this becomes, in my mind, a quintessential bet-fold spot. I'll know that he's only going to be raising me if he has a king in his hand. I also know that he's not value betting anything less than what I have. So I bet $125 more on the river targeting an ace. If I'd known what he had, I would have probably bet 200. He snap calls, which is obviously great news for us, giving us a $700 pot. I show my hand, and he turns over ace-jack for 2 pair. So apparently, when I play a hand against him, the guy who has the best hand going into the river rarely ever wins, as you've seen on a couple previous vlogs. Then Sharky was at it again, and he wanted to know if I could put him on a hand.
Call it, Ben, call it, Ben, call it.
Gimme. As a truly amazing night winds down, I even hit one more set, flopping 3 9s on a king-high board against 3 opponents, though my tiny bet didn't get any action. That's the downside of having a winning image on what was a winning night. All right, racking up, cashing out, booking a win of $2,495. Didn't win any of those drawings. I gotta defer to Bugsy on how to win those bad boys. But still the biggest win of 2022 so far. For me, feels good, obviously, after that brutal downswing in the month of March. Preparing for Texas. Good win today in order to get there. All right, checking in on the Friday morning after that vlog on a Thursday night. Pleased to report that the downswing that happened throughout the month of March is now a thing in the past. The bankroll back at a new high water mark. So able to recoup those losses pretty quickly, I must say, and quicker than I really would have thought that I was able to do it. And of course, I've talked about it before. I'll mention it again here. A big part of the reason why is the help that I've been able to get by being a subscriber at Crush Live Poker, which I've now been for the last dozen years. And it's just become a part of my weekly routine, listening to the podcast and watching the videos that are up on that site. It's actually a really good one that's up now that Bart Hansen, my guy, talking about the recent high stakes game at Hustler Casino Live, and specifically taking a look at really good spots where you can lead in to the pre-flop raiser and good ways to do that. So I'd highly recommend that. And you can always save by using my promo code. That is Ben Deach. It gets you 25% off a basic or premium subscription to CLP forever. And I'd highly recommend that. If you made it this far, hit the like and subscribe buttons. It's great for the channel. I truly appreciate it. Also follow me on Instagram at Ben Deach, and we will see you next time and in Texas at the end of the month.